panel, Building Bridges Through Education, Enhancing the U.S.-Mexico Collaboration, it's going to be moderated by Gabriel Buelna, trustee and member of the board, Los Angeles Community College District, and lead partner at the Buelna law firm, A.P.C. We also have Fernando León García, president at CETYS University. We have Alberto Román, chancellor at LA Community College. We have Aracely Sosa Salas, head of Department of Academic Cooperation at Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. And we have Joshua Viers, associate vice chancellor of Interdisciplinary Research and Strategic Initiatives at University of California, Merced. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the microphone to Gabriel, and thank you very much.
Hello, everyone.
To begin our panel.
Can everyone hear me? Oh, obviously. So I clearly understand that I am getting between you and lunch. However, this is the most important panel. All right, this is the most important panel. From here, everything. In the prior panel, someone mentioned human capital, right? Human capital in terms of from bridging one panel to the other, right? But you have to develop human capital. And that takes a lot of energy from multiple institutions, multiple countries, multiple languages, multiple modalities, and everything. So again, Gabriel Buelna, I'm a faculty member at Cal State Northridge in the Department of Chicano and Chicano Studies. I'm a trustee at the Los Angeles Community College District. And I'm also a family and criminal law attorney. And I also am a certified barbecue master, which is probably the most important thing here. Which, by the way, barbecue pit masters in Los Angeles County make $85,000 per year. So as we move along, I want to allow my fellow panel members, and you have to say something funny or at least try as we're doing this. So we're going to start with Fernando. We're going to be very tight with time, but there's a lot of information and there's a lot of partnership and connection to the development of business between Mexico and the United States. And again, we're going to limit our speeches, me included, but in a time of change right now, what we do in our sectors of education should probably be able to bridge us through these times of transportation. Whether you're in the Mexican government or you're in the U.S. government, the governments are different. And I think probably most of you agree, whether you agree or disagree with them in each country. So I'm going to start off with Fernando, if you could introduce, then each panelist, then we'll move on to a discussion.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Fernando Sepulveda, AEM. Great event as you're talking about economic development and as you're putting at the forefront the importance on education. Nothing funny as such, just that, I was counting on the fact that I was going to be able to fly in and fly out from Imperial County. And they called me and said, your flights are canceled. So we just had to drive. So we're here now. And good thing is that we can share with you some thoughts, some experiences that might enrich your perspective on U.S., Mexico, or California, Baja California collaboration. Thank you.
Aracely?
Thank you. My name is Aracely Sosa. I'm the head of Department of Academic Cooperation at UAPC. The panel of sports didn't mention also that what was happening with the Women's Soccer League. So I'm a huge fan of the Women's Soccer Leagues, and I would like to have more information about that. It's very important. And also, I would like to invite all of you to Baja California, where the carne asada is very popular. And in Mexicali, where I'm from, the Chinese food is very popular also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just got back from Mexico City. Tijuana beats Mexico City tacos 100%. Let me just acknowledge that fact. All right. And our next, Dr. Alberto Román.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Alberto Román. I'm the interim chancellor for the Los Angeles Community College District, representing about 200,000 students over 9 community colleges. Looking forward to this conversation around education. I think everything starts with education. It's the focal and the foundation of business, of our society, of progress. So if we don't focus at least a little bit on what's fundamental to the progress of our communities, then we're going to miss out. So I'm looking forward to contributing with our colleagues here on the issue of higher education. I don't have anything funny other than that I'm probably the pitmaster for carne asada. So whenever we're ready to go, I'm ready to to do a competition here. Aracely. Welcome. All right. Good to be here with you.
All right. And just, for those of you who are thinking community college, I like the UC, and we love the UC. Joshua, we love the UC. But remember, in terms of U.S. Mexico, there are more Mexicans within our community colleges than the CSU and UC combined, even though Joshua wants to change that. So we're going to bridge that over to Joshua from UC Merced, where you have an awesome chancellor. Who's your chancellor?
Juan Sanchez Munoz.
Who's from East Los Angeles, so we like him even more. But if you could please introduce yourself.
Gracias a todos. Buenas tardes. My name is Joshua Viers. I have the pleasure of being the Associate Vice Chancellor for Interdisciplinary Research and Strategic Initiatives. And as they say, the longer the title, the less important you are. Okay. No, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm happy to represent the University of California in the Merced campus. We're the 10th and newest campus of the University of California system. In less than 20 years, we've grown to 10,000 students, 53% Hispanic, 90% non-white, 2 out of 3 first-generation college goers, and nearly 1 out of 10 are undocumented. We are the face of California, and we're building that in the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
I'll end this by just saying I'm a multi-generational New Mexican. And as we say there, that's neither new nor Mexico. But we are very good at the carne adobada, so I welcome you to come and try our food.
All right. So just, so as everyone here, obviously we're dealing with business, but to not appreciate the fact that you have leading Mexican institutions on the Mexican side in Baja California and the leading U.S. institutions on the American side, as we're going to have a section for everyone to ask questions, okay? You're going to ask questions. One of my colleagues, for instance, works in the dairy industry, and we're going to have a conversation in a few weeks with regard to training folks in Spanish on the dairy industry so there's on just additional training, right? So there's a lot of questions. Think about those specific questions that you can ask. But we're gonna focus our conversation around 3 key questions. What are the emerging opportunities for Mexican students to study in California and vice versa? 2, what types of cross-border activities have been successfully implemented that can serve as examples of collaboration? And number 3, how do you expect the role of the universities to change in light of the new political landscapes in both countries? Which is not a politically loaded question, but I'll leave that as I'm just kidding. So who would like to first kind of address one of those three topics? We don't have shy people on this panel. So Fernando, why don't you start?
Just providing context
Sure.
of the Mexican higher education system. It has an enrollment of 5.4 million, which is number 7 in the world. U.S. is not number 1. It's India and China, followed by the U.S., then followed by Brazil and Indonesia, and then Turkey. And then Mexico, and Mexico is above Russia, by the way, in terms of the size of the educational system. 65% public, 35% of the enrollment private. However, in terms of number of institutions that are close to 4,000 around the nation, 24% only are public. That is, most institutions are very large. And then we have 76% that are private. So I think, that puts a context. And I think that it is important to stress. I'll start reverse with the third question.
Sure.
And circle back. That the colleges and universities on both sides of the border, in fact, are, as our session says, building bridges and bringing down walls. It is up to the institutions, regardless of what happens in government, to bring us together and to promote collaboration. It happened 2 presidential terms ago, and I think that the conditions are such that if we want to bring both countries together, if we want to promote economic development, colleges and universities are going to have a very active role. I think it is not something that is going to start from scratch. I assume all of our panelists here will have numerous examples of how California and Baja California have been collaborating in the different forms that you find. Fee-paying students who come to California students who are here on an exchange, faculty who come, students and faculty from California to go to Baja California. There is a flow south, it's not only north. And there is, of course, the added opportunity that we need to work more intensively with business and industry so that the talent development that is required for both sides of the border to prosper can come into fruition. So I'll stop there for now.
Thank you. Aracely, so I was just in court about 45 minutes ago fighting and I won my hearing, by the way. So if I seem a little hyper and asking questions, it's because I'm in hyper court mode here. So Aracely, counsel, no, I'm just kidding, Aracely. Aracely, can you explain to us, so you represent UABC, awesome Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. So as being Mexican American, being Chicano here in the United States, we rarely hear, I think like Fernando mentioned, the flow is also south, right? What are some opportunities, not just for Mexican American Chicanos, but others, to go to Mexico, UABC? Why would it be good for my daughters to go to UABC?
Well, first of all, I think that all these opportunities are driven through cooperation, bilateral agreements, and also by the academic opportunities that universities offers to students from crossing borders. But talking to from those students that are living in Mexico and they're trying to have this opportunity to study in colleges in San Diego or Imperial Valley, Imperial counties, there's this bill that was passed in 2023, that's called AB 91, that gives the opportunity to those Mexican students that live 45 miles down the south border to cross to these institutions to have this opportunity for studying. And also the partnerships between universities from California or Arizona that are in the border with Baja California. The partnerships that we have is for our student exchange programs where both countries can send students for short-term, long-term students in the programs of both institutions.
So this was, I believe it was a California-based legislation that passed, allowing for, and did the legislation also pass the Baja California legislature? Was that how it occurred? Was that federal legislation? Or it was only California? Okay. So is that being implemented now, or how is the implementation of that? Maybe for Fernando or Aracely?
It's in the process. It's in the process. So you have institutions in particular on the border, such as Southwestern College or A.P.C, trying to work with the institutions on the Baja side so that we can get an additional flow of students. There's already a flow of students, but this would be an additional flow at, of course, a very discounted cost, which will make it more accessible. So it's barely in the early stages.
Aracely, UABC, how big is UABC in Baja? How many students does it have?
UABC has 3 main campuses, one in Ensenada, one in Tijuana, and one in Mexicali. And we have over 70,000 students that are in UABC and 143 undergraduate programs.
Thank you very much. Dr. Román, there's also, and I think understanding the role of politics is important. Could you speak to AB 1096 and the role of language at the community college and how language is evolving within, and how that might or is affecting enrollment and opportunities for folks and might affect folks here who are in the business community?
Yeah, thank you for that. And let me just, by way of information, we've traveled to various countries sort of to promote community colleges. And I have to say, community colleges are a little foreign to other countries, right? They really don't have that type of educational system. We've gone to China, Colombia. We were in El Salvador a few years ago. We've gone to Mexico. And so by way of information, quickly, just to let you know, it is a 2-year system that allows for students, particularly low-income students, to get education, particularly in California, for free. And then for those that want to transfer can transfer with 2 years of education into a 4-year university. We have CTE programs, career technical programs as well, that are not a 2-year track per se, but allow our students to get into livable wages and jobs into a profession. So I want to give that context because community colleges outside of the U.S. are not necessarily existent, but they're very important. Let me tell you why. At LACCD, the Los Angeles Community College District, we have 9 community colleges ranging from 840 miles from San Pedro Harbor all the way to the valley. East LA is part of our LACCD, by the way, so your chancellor comes from a really good place. We serve 200,000 students over 9 colleges. The majority of our students are Latino, Latina. They're immigrant students, first-generation college graduates. That's the profile of our district and our 9 colleges. Their parents, their families, they come from intergenerational families that many are coming from Mexico, like mine. I'm from Durango, migrated here when I was 9. We still have a strong connection to Mexico. Why is that important? Because we also know that we have a lot of families who would otherwise pursue education, but they're not able to do so because of the language barrier. We have folks with professions coming from Mexico and other countries, and they're not able to exercise their profession because they're lacking the language acquisition to do so. And I have to give kudos to our moderator here as a trustee of our district who championed this new legislation for California that allows us now, it's been passed, it's Assembly Bill 1096, that allows us to actually offer full programs, credit programs at community colleges in languages other than English. Think about the opportunity there. I'm thinking of my aunts, my uncles, folks who can go back, but they're not able to do so because they haven't acquired the language. East LA College started the first program. It's a full program, and it's for child development, fully in Spanish. Our first cohort is graduating now, and those folks at the end of that degree will have a job waiting for them, or will allow them to open their own business in child development. If any of you know the region, child development is an area of high need. And so this is just one of several programs that we're going to be looking at. But what it is equity and access and education. And it starts by looking and focusing on a community that has been otherwise neglected over the course of the years here in California. I think California is leading the way. I think this can really take traction. The 9 colleges are looking at ways in which we're going to offer courses in other than English. I mean, we're looking at clearly at Mandarin and others, but Spanish will be the focus because, again, that's the community that we serve here in Los Angeles. The other piece, if I may quickly, Dr. Buelna, is we are also looking at international programs. I was actually at Southwestern College as a vice president there. I can tell you we had a good percentage of students coming from Tijuana to take their courses at Southwestern. This bill that passed, AB 91, will now allow our students from Tijuana to get tuition at the California rate instead of the international student rate. So what that does is it makes it more affordable to them, and it builds opportunities for students from Tijuana to actually get a 2-year education. And the last piece I'll say, because I was asked to be brief, is that we are looking at partnerships with other institutions outside of California. We've established a great partnership with El Salvador, with Universidad de Oriente, where we're going to actually do online courses for students in the university by way of one of our colleges here. Now that online education has become a thing, we've eliminated barriers, and now we're opening opportunities for students in other countries to be able to attain education here through our system free of charge. Mexico's next. I'd love to talk to you about potential partnerships where we as a community college system can work with you, establishing opportunities not only for our folks that are here, our immigrant communities, our Latino communities, but also for our folks in the border and in those regions. There's tremendous potential here, folks. This is a beginning. And I'll go back to what I said initially. It all starts with access to higher education. If we're going to uplift our communities, if we're going to empower our communities, education has to be accessible and affordable to our community. So it starts there.
Thank you very much. Before we go to Joshua, I do also want to acknowledge that AEM was the inspiration for AB 1096 because we had all our meetings in Spanish. And one time I was asked, should the meetings be in English? I'm like, no, I'll stop being a member if you move to English. In fact, I think this was the first meeting that we have in English, from what I recall. But we are in the transition of looking at language, right? Do we, is it just where someone says, learn English, it's good enough, move on? Now we're saying the multilingual approach is absolutely important. And Joshua, can you tell us about what's happening with your partnerships in the fields and your business opportunities? You're a change maker.
Well, thank you, and absolutely. So the University of California, the motto is Fiat Lux, let there be light, right? So higher education attracts people because it's a pathway to prosperity. I myself went to a community college. I recognized the opportunity before me, and I was able to successfully pursue one of these pathways. In terms of the presence of the University of California, Merced in the San Joaquin Valley, it's really just undeniable the change that we're making. And I'd like to make the connection back to Mexico. If you eat food, your food either comes from Mexico or the San Joaquin Valley. And our ability to be able to provide for both of our nations across North America and elsewhere is just absolutely dependent on people that want to work in the agricultural workforce. And we're presently making sure that the agricultural workforce becomes an agricultural tech force. We heard last night about the transformation through globalization and the penetration of artificial intelligence. I like to call it augmented intelligence because we're keeping humans in the loop. The opportunity here is for education to uplift people, perhaps through competency-based education in community colleges, through CSUs, the UCs, but the bilateral exchange is also important. I want to give a couple of examples to that. The University of California is a research institution, which means we produce students that have PhDs and they create knowledge through research. And so we have a program with A.P.C and Ensenada where we're looking at wastewater treatment and being able to irrigate the vineyards of Valle de Guadalupe with that water. And now we're taking that knowledge and bringing it to California. So those Napa wines are actually going to be irrigated with treated wastewater as well. We have a student from CDMX, Jose Manuel Rodriguez, very brilliant researcher who actually applied his skills to understand groundwater management in the San Joaquin Valley. Through the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, we expect nearly 1 million acres, 400,000 hectares of land that will need to be transitioned to something else, right? And he's identified ways to lessen that impact, but it includes the changing of different crops. So yesterday at UC Merced, we hosted businessmen from Jalisco. You may have heard this. They're starting to invest in agave in the San Joaquin Valley. It'll be a long time before Caliquila is a thing, and it certainly won't be as good as anything from Jalisco. But we see the opportunity around biomanufacturing, and we need to train people in that. We see the opportunity around pharmaceuticals. We need to train people for that. We see the opportunity around healthcare and all the different products that can come from these products that are grown well in Mexico, but perhaps not yet in California. We need to learn this knowledge. And likewise, we need to send our students there to be able to better understand and likewise. So I see a lot of exchange happening. And I'll just add that what's really helped enable this is that our region, through what we call the F3 Farms Food Future Initiative in the Biden administration, we won the largest Build Back Better regional challenge in America, $65.1 million. The largest in America, the only one in California, and that was focused on the future of food, thinking about automation, thinking about uplifting the agricultural workforce into a tech force and providing that pathway through community colleges to the UC and beyond.
Thank you very much. As we kind of think, we're about 150 people today. I want to acknowledge one person who's not on the panel. That's Fernando de Nicochea right there. Fernando, stand up real quick. Come on. Fernando de Nicochea. Back in 1969, Fernando and Cástulo de la Rocha, is Cástulo here? No, from Altimed, they created what's called el Plan de Santa Bárbara, which really, without that initiative back in 1969, created the platform for the success that we have here as Mexicans in the United States and as Latinos. I'm saying that because a lot of the relationships, meeting of individuals one-on-one, asking questions, even if you think, man, that's a silly question, it might lead to a new movement, right? That we don't know. So that's why I'm encouraging, ask us questions during the break session so we can engage you. We are inviting you. But if I could ask Fernando here from CETYS, could you talk about so right now, it used to be said that trade stopped wars. If you trade with China, if you trade with other countries, it will stop wars, right? So we're seeing that now a few decades later, after Nixon went to China and other types of international relationships, that sometimes trade brings trade wars or potential trade wars. But Fernando, can you tell us how the role of the universities as mediators, as facilitators for global cooperation as human beings, in order to frankly stop future conflicts, but at the same time create wealth and opportunity?
I think that higher education is definitely an instrument that brings together people, that brings them to the table so that they can talk about their own context, so that there can be tolerance, so that there can be better understanding, and so that with better communication, you can go towards collaboration as such. So I think that it has been proven in many countries that higher education is an instrument that brings people together, but that if effectively used can also enhance economic development and can promote well-being as such. That said, I think at an institutional level, we need to be mindful of the fact that if we talk about students, if we talk about faculty, they are looking for value added. They are looking for competitiveness as well. So the type of opportunities that we need to put on the table have to be very creative. It's not only about going in one direction one semester or coming in the other direction in one semester. It's about a combination of things. So what we see, for example, in international education is that rather than a full year abroad or a semester abroad, they're shorter term. They're more applied. They're linked to service learning. They're linked to internships. They're linked to experiences that bring together people so that the soft skills are developed as such. And I think that the Baja region is definitely a very fertile place where you can find this. Can you imagine students on the US side not only going for an exchange, but studying in Mexico? We've got between 350 and 400 from either Imperial County or South Bay that actually go to Tijuana or go to Mexicali for the degree. Can you imagine, we were talking about community colleges. Can you imagine not the students from Tijuana and Mexicali entirely coming to Chula Vista or to Imperial County, but taking some of the undergraduate basic courses on the Mexican side so that they don't have to cross as frequently? We're doing that with Southwestern. We're about to begin to do that with Imperial County or Imperial Valley College as well. Can you imagine universities on both sides of the border coming together, discussing with industry what their future talent development needs are, or what actual problems are, and joining forces? And there's, UABC has quite a few examples. We have some others as well. One involving Skyworks and UCSD and CETYS coming together to develop a master's degree in radio frequency because that's what Skyworks needed. St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, not in California, but U.S. institution, coming together with Medtronics and CETYS so that the next wave of engineers that were required for the medical instrument cluster could be developed. And then the same thing for aerospace with Honeywell and Embry-Riddle, and more recently, Baja California joining forces with UABC and CETYS and MTech, so that along with Arizona State University, we combine what is required so that the ecosystem in terms of semiconductors can be appropriately addressed. So I think that what you find is that universities can definitely play a very key role, not only bringing together, but designing solutions that can support the economic development cross-border in the Baja region.
So what I'm hearing from the panelists and what you just said, Fernando, was, from your poor student who's trying to start to potential microchips and advanced technology, there is a movement from both states to adapt, move forward, and to assist the entire border region. We're going to get to some questions in about a minute because there has to be questions. But if I could ask both Aracely, Dr. Román, and Joshua, is there anything that you believe the audience should know about forthcoming programs that are on the drawing board, that you're thinking of, that folks in the business world will say, oh, that's very interesting, and might be able to give you some feedback, and we'll close with then an open questions from the audience.
Well, I would just like to add that recently there was an agreement signed by the molecular toxicologically laboratory in Imperial Valley with UABC. So the professors from both sides can do research in to combat health issues for the pollution that is in both sides of the frontier. So maybe that can be very interesting for both.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of things. Thank you for that. One would be we're looking at potentially doing a small business entrepreneurship program in Spanish. As I mentioned, we're already in the space of offering courses in Spanish for full programs. To us, that's a fundamental one because in LA, 70 to 80% of our businesses are small businesses. And in this particular region, there are predominantly, Latina business owners. So having the opportunity to offer those courses in a full program in Spanish for people who want to start a business and be able to get the degree and not have, again, the language be a barrier to us is phenomenal. The other thing would be we'll call it 2+2 program. We already have it with China. We want to start it with Mexico. We have great colleagues here that we could sort of go visit. I'd love to get to Tijuana. I haven't been in a while. But the 2+2 program would be where the university, our colleges will offer the first 2 years of the four-year degree program, and then the university would offer the second 2 years. So folks from Mexico would have an opportunity to be here for 2 years, get the full general education, and then articulate back the 4 years. Fernando, you mentioned going both ways. We would want to do the same and actually have our students be able to go for the last 2 years to the universities. So again, the interconnectedness of education, the ability for us to work with our partners on both sides of the border is tremendous. We already have some models that work, but I think there's a lot for us to look at ahead. And those two particular programs, I think, will be fruitful and will allow us to extend further opportunities for both our folks in Mexico and in the border, as well as here in Los Angeles and San Diego.
Thank you very much. Joshua, you're going to need to end with a bang and the best program that's going to bring all of us together and make all of us billions.
Make us billions. So with that, I'm going to say we benefited. The University of California, Merced benefited from a public-private partnership. I heard that earlier as a way to build resilience within business and thinking about the future of entrepreneurs. That investment was a $1.3 billion build for the next phase of our campus. That allowed us to achieve two things. One, we're ranked by the Wall Street Journal as #1 in social mobility in the United States. And if you think that's an aberration, U.S. News and World Report moved us from #5 to #3. I think we're doing something right. What it also did is it allowed us to become the first campus in the United States to be carbon neutral. It's a focus on sustainability and climate resilience that's really unprecedented. And what that translates into is now we're becoming the focal area for entrepreneurship as it relates to ag-food technology. Imagine the Silicon Valley 30, 40, 50 years ago. Well, that's happening now in the transformation of our food system to create climate resilience. And there's plenty of opportunity there, but we know that we have to do that with our partners in Mexico and beyond. And that's why we have these programs with A.P.C, UDLAP, Chapingo, and possibly others. So I think the future is bright, and that pathway to excellence will be through higher education.
Excellent. Thank you. Can we, questions? So there's no way that do we have microphones on the? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, whoever, and we do have a question over here, however you guys want to coordinate it. If you could, please, we have about 10 to 12 minutes. probably 10, and your food's over there. Be succinct in your questions because we want to answer them, and we will be succinct in our questions as well. They're passing the microphone over there, and right behind it, then they'll coordinate. So please move forward.
Thanks. So first of all, thanks for all the incredible insights. One question I have is I'm certainly a huge supporter of a traditional four-year degree program, but I'm fortunate to be serving in the national board chair for an organization called Tourism Diversity Matters that's really focusing on workforce development in our industry. And I wonder if you can comment, one of the things we found is there's a tremendous amount of implicit bias built into the hiring process. People are, for example, requiring four-year degrees for jobs that don't really require them. They're looking for 10 years of experience that don't require them. And particularly for Latino and African American communities, there are a lot of incredible kids in the junior and community college system who are simply being left out of the job pool. So I wonder if you can comment on that.
I can, and thank you for raising that question. I'll be very succinct, but this is where I think community colleges have the most value. What we do with our programs is, for us, it's not just about getting the degree, but what happens after the degree, and that is job placement for our students. So we have networks where we work with our business partners, our business partners, to say, what is the gap that you're trying to fill? What is the curriculum that we need to develop? And by the way, at the end of that degree, is there an internship or is there a job available? We have to collaborate with them. And I agree with you, not all of the jobs out there require a four-year degree. Sometimes students spend money and time unnecessarily. So our network has really grown now, where we are focusing, going to them and saying, what skills do you need? What type of training do you need? Let us build a curriculum. But by the way, we need you to hire our students when they graduate. That partnership's growing. Thank you for that question, because I agree with you. There is a tremendous gap right now. For example, real quick, allied health. All of these technical programs in allied health are leading to jobs when our students graduate, and we still can't fill their needs. So these are jobs that are paying $50,000, $60,000 to start. That doesn't mean the student stops there, but it gets them into a livable wage while they continue their education. So strong workforce and career technical education is a focus of community colleges, and this is where I think we have the most value. Appreciate the question.
Is there a response from the Mexican side?
I think that on the one hand, we need to acknowledge the role that universities are already playing. Of course, we have always heard about the eternal challenge of más vinculación. I think vinculación is happening. It's just a matter of making sure that we are more systematic about it. But there are numerous examples in Baja California where both UABC and CETYS are working with business and industry, trying to identify technical training needs, future bachelor's level requirements, as well as master's and even research. So I think that the key to this is that, number one, you do acknowledge the potential role that higher education institutions can play. Number two, that both parties come together. And number three, that it can be a joint effort. I think that it is definitely the way to go as we try to look at more cross-border synergies.
We have a question right here.
Thank you. Duncan Wood with the Pacific Council. We're just relaunching our Mexico initiative at the Pacific Council. One of the areas we want to look at is human capital, workforce development. What I'd really love to hear from the panelists is one or two concrete things that either their own federal government or state governments could do to really move the agenda forward for collaboration on education and workforce development.
The first thing I think is that governments, hopefully at a state level, since both governments apparently sympathize with each other, Baja California and California, come together and probably reactivate what used to be Comisión de los Californias or something to that effect that brings together business and industry so that we can look at joint needs. We talk about the Cali-Baja region. It does not stop at the border. The dynamics are such that we do need to discuss that. On the other hand, while that happens, if it happens, we owe it to ourselves in terms of higher education to come together and to look at solutions that will provide these opportunities to enhance the development of students on this side, on that side, and across both borders. I think that education is cannot be conceived without having a global and competitive perspective. And it needs not only one partner, it needs multiple partners.
Let's quickly maybe ask for the questioner ask for maybe one response each real quick. We want to go. There's more questions.
There's one question here as well, Gabriel.
But does anyone else would like to give a very quick response?
Yeah, I would just say within the University of California perspective, facilitating visas primarily for students, that's at the top of the list. And then secondarily, the ALMA government restricted funds for Mexican students to travel to the U.S. I think we would prefer to see that return.
One thing that I'll add that we need to look, because I was thinking as a political scientist as well, most and what Fernando was mentioning between the Californians get along. Also, cities and counties get along. As a community college district, we are a government entity. So the way we understand government is we need to understand in the United States, there's a government for everything. Water district, pollution district, school district, community college district, just everything. So many elected officials, right? So understand that concept and potentially partnering more with those entities that actually where a lot of the infrastructure that we enjoy comes from. For instance, as an LA Community College Board, we bonded $5.4 billion, not federal government, LA Community College, not state of California. So the way we understand government also needs to evolve. Question over here.
As we all know, California is 40% Latino and an increasingly older population, but also predominantly younger population. There is no sector, occupational and professional, that is more under-resourced in terms of technicians and professionals who have language and culture and technical and professional education than the health services, healthcare sector. And what you find, whether you're USC Keck or Cedars-Sinai or Alphamed or any number of, is that the technicians and professionals are having to go to for-profit colleges and institutes to pay $40,000, $80,000, $120,000 to get the degree and the certification that they need to work. So if you could just quickly tell us something about your efforts or the priority this would have for your institutions in meeting this tremendous need. Thank you.
And you get to ask a long question, Fernando, because you're awesome. All right. And I think, is there any other question before we get to answering that, or any other questions? Oh, wait. Daniel has a question as well. So let's give a very, and I apologize, a very quick answer because we have one final question.
Okay, well, I would like to answer that question. UAPC has the degree for nursery and medicine. So we have programs with Arizona State University and Imperial Valley to improve the proficiency of the English for nurses and medicine doctors who are looking to have the certification to work here in the United States to help to improve the health sector.
If I can add on our end, we mentioned allied health, there's a gap there. And to your point, there's a gap in having culturally responsive allied health employees that can serve our community. LACCD just got a grant for $3 million for our first basic guaranteed income program that's focused on allied health. We're going to give students $1,000 over 12 months that are in allied health fields. And the promise is that we will give you the basic income. In return, you're going to continue to focus on school and graduate. We expect about 250 more students to come from this program, primarily Latinos, primarily students of color, but we can't fill these positions fast enough. And I think it's important for us to continue to focus on having not just allied health professionals, but professionals who understand our communities, particularly the Latino communities. So we're going to have some things in motion, but to your point, there's still a lot to do there.
And UC Merced just broke ground on a medical education building. So we're developing a BS to MD program. So the MD will come from UC San Francisco, but the pre-med comes from UC Merced. That's a 200,000 square foot facility that will also drive health science research.
Daniel has the last question. Daniel.
Quickly, thank you. I'm Daniel from part of the AEM group. I was just wondering if you had suggestions on programs or other first steps that the community members, business community members here represented, could take to partner with maybe a UC system or some of the colleges, and get students to play with us and maybe some of the research, get it applied in our fields. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The value proposition of higher education is at the edge right now. We need to be able to show our worth. And so part of that is making sure that our students have a place to land when they come out. And so what I'm envisioning, the 2+2, perhaps +1, is that +1 needs to be driven by the needs of the business community. So there needs to be a better idea of where our students can actually matriculate into once they have that degree. So paid internships are always a great opportunity for our students. But even just ideas for our student teams to do their capstone projects are always an excellent way to engage.
That's just quick. Same business. We have a strong business departments in our community. We're looking for people who may be able to offer internships for our students. Allied health remains one. And I would add pre-law programs. We do have several pre-law programs in our community college. Students need that year of internship. So to the extent that we want to partner with you, if you're in those fields, please, community colleges are the place, as well as our four-year universities, because this is where we serve our most underserved students and our most needy students. So keep us in mind. We're always looking for internship opportunities for our students.
So we're going to do, because my CNN timekeeper is right behind me, we're only going to give a 5-second closing. They didn't travel far, but this is a world-renowned panel. I want to thank them very much. But before the applause, a 5-second closing.
Okay. Stay tuned for Marca Mexico, an effort that is trying to promote Mexico as an academic and higher education destination around the world.
Well, as trust institutions, I think that universities bridge divides and need to find these solutions through a research-driven solutions to border crossings.
Yeah, and for us, community colleges are the engine for social and economic mobility. I hope that today you got a sense of what the work that we do. We are front and center and ground zero to helping some of our most underserved students, many of which have families and ties in Mexico. So by educating them here and giving them an opportunity, we're also increasing the purchasing power, not just of our residents here, but those that actually have an interconnectedness with Mexico. So I would just say continue to support community colleges in the work that we're doing. I appreciate today's panel and discussion. Thank you.
Calicula, you heard it here first.
All right. An applause for our panel. Thank you very much.